The Cloaca Maxima still carries stormwater through Rome, 2,000 years old and still draining the same streets it was built to serve. The pump station in downtown Detroit failed during a rainstorm in 2023. Both systems move the same volume of water. One was built by slaves using volcanic stone. One cost $400 million. The question is not budget. The question is why one outlasts the other by 2 millennia, and whether every city eventually meets the same collapse point. Modern planning dogma says progress is linear. Each generation builds smarter than the last. We have computers, concrete, climate modeling. They had hand tools and empirical observation. Louis Mumford called this assumption the myth of the machine, the belief that technological accumulation equals better outcomes. The City and History, published in 1961, documented how medieval quarters, organized by function, not by class, produced neighborhoods that survived for centuries without centralized infrastructure. The official story says we superseded that. We did not. We forgot the principle that made it work. You just learned we forgot a principle that kept cities alive for centuries. Subscribe to follow the forensic thread as we uncover what that principle actually is and why it matters for every city you will ever live in. In the comments, write the word principle if you suspect the answer is something you already sense but have never articulated. Here is the first contradiction the official story cannot explain. The Roman grain fleet fed 1 million mouths using wooden ships, oars, and systematic logistics documented in Vitruvius's De Architectura from 30 before the Common Era. No refrigeration, no GPS, no supply chain software, just organizational intelligence rooted in understanding the city as a living organism, not a machine. That fleet operated for 4 centuries. The modern supply chain that serves an American city of comparable size fails every time a single bridge closes or a single warehouse catches fire. The ancients achieved higher resilience with less technology. The pattern repeats, but the pattern hides something deeper. One design principle separates the cities that survive from the ones that disappear, and it was never about the materials. Consider a second case study. In the 1920s, Soviet urban planners attempted to replicate the logic of medieval neighborhoods, walkable blocks, mixed uses, communal spaces. They built micro-districts across Moscow and Leningrad. They followed the blueprint but excluded the human element. The residents had no agency over their own streets, no ownership of the spaces between buildings, no reason to care. The result? Sterile housing blocks that nobody loved and that nobody wanted to maintain. Within 2 generations, those districts became sites of social decay. The planners had the shape right, they missed the soul. That missing piece, the soul, is the same variable modern zoning erases. Subscribe to keep tracing this pattern through every failed city and every resilient one. Write soul in the comments if you have ever walked through a neighborhood that had all the right structures but felt empty. Now here is the part the textbooks skip. The ancient builders did not just build differently, they measured differently. They optimized for a variable modern planners erased. Human scale, not traffic flow, not property value, not square footage per capita. Human scale. The width of a street was determined by how long it took 2 ox carts to pass each other, not by how many cars could park. The height of a building was limited by the distance a woman could shout to her neighbor across the alley. These measurements seem primitive. They are not. They create environments that match the way human bodies and human relationships actually work. You have walked through at least one of these places. The downtown that feels alive. The neighborhood where people sit on their stoops. Where the bakery is beneath an apartment where someone raised children who now run the shop. You felt the difference without being able to name it. Now you know the name. It is human scale. LiDAR scans of pre-Columbian Amazonian cities from the 2010s reveal something that shatters the official story even further. These cities housed over 100,000 people. They managed seasonal floods without concrete, without pumps, without modern engineering at all. They used terraced drainage systems that mimicked the natural water cycle of the forest. The engineers who built these had no computers, no metal tools, no written language as we know it. They had something more valuable, a principle that guided every decision. Work with the system, not against it. Build for duration, not for speed. Measure by human need, not by profit margin. The discovery rewrites the timeline. It is not that ancient cities were smaller or simpler. Some were larger and more complex than anything in the Americas before the 20th century. The difference is they understood something we forgot. Cities are biological systems. They grow, breathe, metabolize, and die. Treat a city like a machine, and it will break. Treat it like an organism, and it can live for thousands of years. The same principle explains Detroit. It explains Rome. It explains the abandoned Amazonian city whose population vanished, leaving behind only the earthworks and the seeds of trees they planted to feed their descendants. Detroit was not killed by the auto industry alone. It was killed by zoning laws that separated housing from commerce, that forced residents to drive everywhere, that replaced the corner store with the strip mall and the front porch with the garage. The design optimized for cars. Cars left. The design remained. The life did not return. Here is what that means for your city. Drive down your main street tomorrow, count the empty storefronts, then ask yourself, was this planned or did it just die? The answer is both. It was planned by people who measured the wrong things, and it died because the wrong measurement became the only measurement. If you have ever felt like a stranger in your own city, like the place you grew up was replaced by something that does not recognize you, you are not wrong. The pattern is real, and understanding it is the first step. You already know this pattern because you have walked through it. Subscribe so you are here for the story of the city that reversed it, the one that proves the principle still works. In the comments, write "my city" if you can see the same empty storefronts in your own downtown. Write this in the comments. What part of this did you already know, but never said out loud? One city reversed the pattern, a medium-sized European capital that was losing 20% of its population every decade. The planners did something radical. They stopped planning. They gave residents permission to reshape their own streets. They removed parking minimums and replaced them with community space requirements. They allowed mixed-use zoning by default, not by exception. The result is not perfect, but it is living. The population stopped declining. Young people started moving back. The main street has a bookstore, a bakery, a butcher, and a bar. And they are all owned by people who live within walking distance. That story belongs to the next chapter. For now, understand this. The cities that survive are not the richest or the most technologically advanced. They are the ones designed for the human body, for the human lifespan, for the human need to belong to a place. The Cloaca Maxima still works. Detroit is still trying. The Amazonian city is buried under forest. But the principle is not lost. It is waiting for someone to remember it. Next time you walk through a city that feels alive, or one that feels dead, you will know the difference. It was never about concrete or steel. It was never about the budget. It was about the scale of the thing. And the scale of the city is the scale of the people inside it.